Hey guys, Ezra here and welcome back to another Ezra review. And on today's video, I want to review this new movie called The Killer, or I guess the American remake of the Hong Kong movie called The Killer, directed by, once again, by John Woo. And this review will contain some spoilers, guys. So if you guys haven't watched this movie, it was available on Peacock, so make sure you guys watch the movie first, because in this review, I will spoil some plot point and aspect of the movie, so I feel like that's where I could convey my points clearly, so that's why I decided to do a spoiler review. So again, if you haven't watched this movie, then make sure you guys watch it first on Peacock, and then you can return and watch this video, because again, spoiler alert. This movie has been in development since 1992, I think, and there is so many more development behind the scenes stuff, that I'm not gonna get into it because it's just too much, there is like several actor that was kind of attached to star in this movie, like Richard Gere and Denzel Washington, as the killer and the cop character, I think. But yeah, there's so many more directors and actors that was actually involved in the making of this American remake of The Killer before eventually John Woo decided to step in and direct the movie himself. And so this movie stars nathalieemmanuel, as the killer, and omarsy as the cop character. And it was recently released in Peacock, August 23rd, which is 2 days ago. And yeah, I watched it, and it was, I don't know, it was okay. I guess it's not terrible, but it's also, I got this feeling that this movie was unnecessary in a way. So here's the thing: the movie, obviously, if you know the original Killer, then you are kind of familiar with the story of this movie. But I do praise this movie for trying to do something a bit more new with the plot and the character itself. But I think this movie, what this movie is lacking is obviously the emotion of the emotional attachment to the character, because I feel the characters are fine, but I feel that's it. They're just fine. They're not exactly amazing. They're not exactly terrible. They're just okay, and you don't necessarily relate to them like in the not like in the original movie, where you are actually care for Ajong, Detective Ying, Jenny, like you care for those characters, and it feels like a really heart-wrenching movie by the time you get to the end there. But I feel like in this movie they kind of remove all the emotional elements of the movie and just kind of like making it like a fun comedy movie in a way, but again, it's not like entirely comedy, and it's okay, I guess. But I feel like the story itself is kind of lacking in my opinion, even though there is some parts that I kind of like where they're going with, so our new protagonist is named Z, he's a professional contract killer, and one day she was assigned to go to this club to kill a bunch of bad guys. There is some cool action sequence, it's like she's killing this bad guy using like a samurai sword, I think, right, a katana, I think. And then on that moment, she accidentally hurt like a singer, which is again kind of like Jenny from the original movie. And but this time the singer is named Jen, so I mean, there you go. So Jen basically goes blind temporarily because like she hit her head pretty hard when she fall down. And Z was actually accused for not finishing the job, because Finn, which is like Z's contractor, you could say that, played by Sam Worthington. You might know him from the Avatar movie and, or of course, the Terminator Salvation movie. Yeah, I think Sam Worthington does a great performance here, because he's the one that hires Z to kill some people, and he said that, well, you should kill everybody on that room, but Z was like, okay, does she deserve this death? Every single time before Z kills someone, she always asks that question to Finn, like, like, do these people deserve this death? And obviously Finn always answering, well, yeah, like if they didn't deserve it, if they didn't deserve this death, then I wouldn't come for you, and this is where Z hesitate, but at the same time we also got this cop character named Say, played by Omarsy. I think Omarsy does a good job, in this movie. He is funny and he is charismatic in a way, and there is some cool kind of fun action sequence, where he's chasing this one guy named Coco, which has a relation with Jan. And I think the chase sequence and the shooting, scenes, I think is quite fun, But I will say this, the original Killer, when you get to the action sequence, it was always chaos. It was always chaotic in a way, and it was like super fast, and everything got destroyed. Because again, that's like the 80s Hong Kong movie power. Where everything is so practical. And it's just, I love it. But in this movie, it's kind of closer to the John Wick action sequence. But not as good because the action sequence feature a lot of slow motion, like a lot of them, man. Like it's a lot of them are just slow motion, cool shot, right? I'm just like, dude, okay, like what is this? Am I watching a Zack Snyder movie now where everything is slow motion? Like what the hell is happening? Like the action sequence itself, it's not bad, because we got the club, right, and then you got the hospital shootout scenes, where Z and Sei are trying to defend Jen against these two killer, and they have a shootout in the hospital, and the scene itself was really fun to watch, but there is a lot of slow motion at the same time now, and it was kind of annoying after a while. I'm just like, you don't have to put everything in a slow motion, John Woo. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to be Zack Snyder here? Like, what the hell are you doing, man? And I get it that if you watch The Killer, About Tomorrow, or even Hard Boil, you can find several moments where John Woo uses slow motion, but I feel like in that old movies, the slow motion was used effectively. In this movie, it was used way too much, and it was becoming super annoying because I would love to watch the action sequence in a normal speed, And man, this makes me really glad that the John Wick movies never use that much slow motion, because like, it doesn't really work that well, because slow motion could work if you use them effectively, and I feel like this movie just like, okay, just use slow motion just for the sake of it, and then that's it, so it was quite disappointing on that department, but at the same time, I will say this though, the one plot point that I really like about this movie is actually the singer character, Jen, right? Because in the original movie, Jenny was just like as there as a love interest, and that's fine. Her purpose in the story, and it shows that Jenny actually cared for Ah Jung in that movie. And this movie, it seems like Jen was like an innocent singer in that club, but it was revealed later on in this movie. Oh, Jen is not exactly innocent at all, because he's actually responsible for stealing a bunch of drugs, alongside Coco, which is the guy that killed by Sei, and Coco is actually Jen's boyfriend, because they want to steal this drug, so they can receive a huge cash of money, so they can get away and start a new life, finally, because Jen wanted to be a singer, but Z, and obviously after hearing this, Z actually gets super pissed, like, man, Finn was right, nobody's in this room are innocent, and I love that plot, because it seems like they're just gonna go with the route that, oh, like Jenny's just like an innocent girl, has nothing to do with this, it was just a misunderstanding kind of situation, where you have to kill everybody in that room, and it was just like unfortunate that she was on that room at the same time, but no, she was actually has a role in this story, because she's still the drug. So I think that's like becoming the main reason that, hey, everybody in that room should die, including Jem, because she's also responsible in a way. So I love that, it wasn't just like there for the sake of it, there's a purpose for why Jen is there, and there's also a purpose why the bad guys wanted to kill Jen. I love that, but I will say this, the relationship between Jen and Z, I don't really find them to be super believable. I guess I feel like it's just kind of forced, where he's like trying to be portrayed as as a killer, but not a cold-blooded killer, which is again kind of like Ah Jung from the first movie, that he's not exactly a cold-blooded killer. But I feel like the way Cho Yun-fat played that character is just so believable that it seems like, okay, this is like a killer, but also not a cold-blooded killer. I will believe that because the way Cho Yun-fat portrayed the character. But when nathalieemmanuel portrayed the character, it's just like, it seems like the movie is trying so hard to portray her as a badass killer, which is like almost invisible, which is like, again, removing all the tension there. You make the character invisible for no reason at all. But classic Hollywood, right? And I feel like the idea for her not to kill, doesn't really want to kill Jen. I just don't really find them to be that believable, Like, I like some aspect what they're trying to do here, where she's actually pissed off, at Jen for lying to her, that no, you are actually responsible in some way, and she's actually trying to kill her again, but she couldn't, So I'm just like, okay, well, I feel like there is not enough connection between these two characters that makes me care enough, because I think in the original movie, it was established already in the first act of the movie, where Ah Jung actually likes Jen. He actually has some crush with Jen. And there is several scenes, I guess, in the first movie where Ah Jung actually tried to save Jen's life. And in this one, and it was happening in the beginning of the movie. But in this movie, there is no establishing scene between Jen and Z. So I found it to be just like, I don't know, not that believable that, oh, Z was willing to spare this girl, I guess, because she seems innocent. I guess that's the idea. But it's just like, okay, like I don't know about that. I just wish there is a bit more connection beforehand, to to basically give a reason why Z wanted to save this girl. I feel like the movie doesn't necessarily did a good job explaining that. In my opinion. And as for Omar Sy's character, say, I feel like he's fine. I feel like Omar Sy does a good job portraying the character. I love his performance, but I feel like he was completely underutilized on some aspect of the story, because the way he was first introduced was cool, but I feel like throughout the movie he was just there to, I don't know, I guess it's just there to, just to bump into Z at some point of the story, and I feel like he tried to do his own investigating stuff, which is really cool. But there's also these two characters that actually did their own investigation on Z, and I don't really like that, because I feel like you can make detectives say to basically again being a detective and try to find where is Z, and using his detective skill to find Z and defeated Z in some way, so we get a cat and mouse game, kind of like the original movie, kind of, right? But I feel like in this movie he was just like guided by these two guys that, hey, this is what happened to Z, this is the killer, this is like what she was doing from day to day, and this is where she went on this afternoon. So you can absolutely, capture her, bring her into custody, and just like, okay, well, I kind of wish that there is a bit more, a bit more stuff that Say could have done for him to find Z and try to defeat Z in some way, because I feel like the character was like underutilized on some aspect of the story in a way, even though they do give him enough for him to shine on the story at the same time, I just wish there is a bit more than that, But yeah, as for the villain itself, I think the villain in here, I think Sam Worthington is a good villain, there's like a fake out villain, that they kind of introduce, named Julius Gorbert, I think. I think Eric Cantona, who plays Julius Gorbert, I think he does a great job, I guess, but at the same time, he's just the kind of guy that yells a lot, So I'm just saying, okay, is this gonna be like this case now where the bad guy just like yells a lot and try to be scary? But no, the movie actually provides a twist where Finn, Sam Worthington's character, is actually the main villain of this movie, which I like because there is a bit more connection between Finn and Z, because they kind of feels like a mentor and a student, so I like that connection there, I love that they try to give some backstory for Z, even though it was a shallow backstory. It was fine, I guess it kind of worked in my opinion. And for the final act of the movie, we get to see Say and Z teaming up to protect Jen, against a bunch of killers, and I feel like it's a cool fight sequence, in the church once again, kind of like the killer does, right? The final fight scene took place in a church. There's the white dove flying around, so like there you go, Johnwoo stuff, right? The final fight scene is cool. It's really, really fun to watch, Again, the action sequence in this movie are really, really fun to watch. I think they're pretty well directed, minus the slow motion part, But even then, I think the final battle between Z and this another female assassin, that was well choreographed. I like it, This is the first time Z got kicked in the ass for the first time. But I also find it super weird that Finn is the one that trained Z. But for some reason, Z is actually way better than Finn. Like, I found that to be bullshit in a way. Like, how? Like that's why I'm saying that. It's just removing any tension from the movie, because when you're watching the original Killer, you know that Ah Jung are professional killer, but at the same time, you can still feel that, oh, like someone can still kick his ass, so you actually feel terrified, whenever he gets shot, and again, that's also because you are really connecting with the character in the original movie, because it becomes sort of become like the main tension of the movie. Will this character be alive or not by the end of the movie? I feel like this movie, it doesn't necessarily have the emotional attachment to the characters, because I feel like they try to write the characters, they try to build the character, which I think they did a pretty decent job, but I feel like it's not enough, it feels kind of bland by the end of the day, and the fact that they try to make Z as an invisible assassin, it's just like, like it's just kind of removing the tension, which is like, again, John Wick also did the exact same thing, where he actually becoming invisible as the movie goes on. But when the movie started, the first John Wick movie, John Wick is not invisible. Like, he gets shot, he gets beaten so many times, and as the movie goes forward, yes, he becomes way more invisible. But even then, he still gets his ass kicked, in that movie. So like, yeah, it's kind of fun to watch that movie because it is a fun characters to watch. It is something that you could care about. But in this movie, when Z is becoming super invisible to the point of defeating his mentor, his teacher, essentially, I just found it to be like, okay, this is kind of bullshit. How is the guy that trained Z to be a professional killer just just get defeated by his pupil just immediately. Like, what the hell was that, man? And it's just like, okay, like, I like his performance, I like Finn's performance, but at the same time, he's just not scary. He's not exactly a good villain in a way, so I don't really feel the tension between the characters, so it's like, yeah, okay, cool, I guess. But yeah, the movies kind of end with all right, I guess the movie kind of ends all right, I feel like they managed to kill the female assassin, they managed to kill Finn, and the movie kind of like end in an open-ended way, where it's like, oh, like Z is still alive, detective say is still alive, and they might team up together again in the future because Z are getting a new job, She never mentioned what the new job is, I don't think it's gonna be another contract killer because she wants to live this life behind, and it feels like Z and Say they could man again in the future, and we could get a sequel to this movie. But do I want a sequel? No, because I feel like this movie is just unnecessary, for remaking The Killer, the original movie. Like, why? The original movie are perfect. It's a classic by johnwoo, You care for the character, you feel the emotional weight for the story, and the action is way more engaging because, again, everything is real, everything is practical, and it was so stylized, And I feel like, yes, this movie got some style in the action sequence, I guess, but I feel like it's still kind of lacking the John Woo style, despite the fact that he was actually directing this movie. And again, like I said before, has a lot of slow motion. Why? Like, just so annoying to watch that. So yeah, at the end of the day, I do think this movie are decent enough. I think you might have some fun time watching it for the action sequence. But I feel like the action sequences are actually far between, and I feel like in the middle portion you get a lot of character talking to each other, and in my opinion they do a decent job to, I guess, make me care for the story a little bit, but I feel like it's not 100%. So there are moments where I'm just like, okay, can we get to another action sequence, please? Because I was kind of getting bored here by the movie, some aspect of the movie, in my opinion, so yeah, I don't know. It's a decent movie. It's fun, but it's just unnecessary, man. It's just, we don't need a remake for The Killer. I really hope they don't remake any more John Woo movies. I don't want them to remake A Better Tomorrow or Hard Boiled as the American version. I don't want that because the movie itself is great. Like the original movie are great. We don't need any remake. Like the point of a remake is to basically improving what's come before, right? That's what I perceive the idea as a remake. But when the original movie are already done a good job and still holds to this day, it doesn't need a remake, in my opinion, because it just feels like, oh yeah, this is the American version of the story, which is like super decent, I guess, and that's it. It's not great, it's not bad, just decent. So whatever, I guess that's the feeling that you get from watching these movies. Yeah, I guess that's my review for The Killer, guys. So if you guys already watched this movie on Peacock, then let me know in the comment section below, guys. What do you guys think about this movie? Do you guys like it, or do you guys think it's just it's just unnecessary, like I feel, so yeah, let me know all your opinions in the comment section below, and if you guys enjoyed this review, then make sure, guys, shoot that subscribe and like button, guys, share the videos, the usual stuff. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one then. Bye.